welcome back to the Cars.co.za YouTube channel. My name's Ciro De Siena and this is a 1.9 turbo diesel Isuzu MU-X and you're about to watch a review of it. But before I get started, I've got some cool news. The Cars.co.za Consumer Awards are back. Yes, for the 2023-2024 season, we will be naming the 13 best cars in 13 categories in South Africa. The announcement comes out in February. However, we have announced the finalists. You'll find all the information on our website. There'll be a link in the description below. And this car, well, not exactly this car, but its bigger brother, the 3-litre, is a finalist. So here I am, reviewing a finalist in the Cars Awards. Very exciting. But if you want to know all about this new budget MU-X, stick around. Dream, search, drive. Cars.co.za. So what is this? Well, we call these cars adventure SUVs. So you're looking at the Fortuner, the Ford Everest, the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, for instance, and this, the new Isuzu MU-X. Now, this brand new MU-X for the 2023 model year was launched earlier in the year with some upgrades, mostly aesthetic though, but then they added this, the smaller 1.9 turbo diesel to the range. They also slashed the price by 100,000 Rand. And so you can get into one of these for 700,000 Rand. And that for me is quite a good price point. Now, if you have 700,000 Rand to spend, you actually have quite a lot of choice. And interestingly, I just drove another 7-seater, which we just filmed for the channel, from China in the form of the Chery Tiggo 8 Pro Max. But that is a much smaller unibody SUV, whereas this is an SUV based on a bakkie. And so it is a very, very different proposition to the Chery. So why would you choose this 7-seater for the same money over something like a Chery Tiggo 8 Pro Max? Well, let's get into it. Now, because this SUV is based on the Isuzu D-Max bakkie, it means that it has the same underpinnings, the same engine, the same gearbox, which means that it has a ladder frame chassis. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, it just means it's a very strong rolling chassis to which the body is mounted. And what that means is that the car is very tough, it's very rugged, it's very durable, and it's better at towing as well. And that is probably why you'd be considering something like this as opposed to a unibody SUV like the Chery. Now, an important differentiating factor between this and the larger engined Isuzu MU-X's is that this is only a 4x2. The power is only going to the rear wheels. So if you are looking for a proper 4x4, you're going to have to spend another 100,000 Rand and get the most affordable 3-litre version of this MU-X. However, I'd imagine that a 4x2 might actually suit most people who are just looking for a large, rugged car to maybe do the school run and then tackle the occasional gravel road, which is what I'll be doing in a couple of minutes' time. But let's get into this engine. Is it worth buying the 3-litre or can you get by with the 1.9? Well, one of the downsides to this 1.9 is that it's very slow. Yeah, this is a pretty slow car. In fact, I think it's capable of time travel, but only into the past. Okay, it's not that bad. I mean, if you go for the kick down, you know, you get another gear out of the 6-speed box and you're off, but not in a particular hurry. I think if you're looking for a nimble, powerful car, this is not the car for you. It's a sort of big, lumbering heffalump of a thing. You go into a corner, you get lots of body roll from the soft, long travel suspension. It's not a sports car by any means. It's not as nice to drive as something like the Chery, but that is obviously a much more road-biased car. Power output here is 110 kilowatts and 350 Newton meters. Now, to contextualize that, the 2.4-litre Fortuner, which is exactly the same price as this car, has the same power output but a bit more torque at 400 Newton meters. And to contextualize that further, the Chery that I just drove had 187 kilowatts and nearly 400 Newton meters. So that gives you an idea of the lack of power that we're dealing with here. But all that being said, I could live with this 1.9. It actually doesn't bother me that it's a little bit underpowered. The car is still rated to tow 2.1 tons, where the Fortuner is rated to tow 2.5 tons. That's something to keep in mind. But obviously both of those figures are significantly more than you would get out of something like a monocoque or unibody SUV like the Chery, or say like a Haval H6. Now there is a trade-off when you go for a bakkie-based SUV. You get this toughness from the chassis, however you also get a lot of jiggle, which is a word that I use to describe the way that the body and the chassis sort of don't really gel particularly well in bakkies like this. And they're all like this. Every single one you drive, with maybe the exception of the Everest, which feels the most like an SUV, but is quite a bit more expensive than this car. For me, this ride is better than the Toyota Fortuner. It doesn't jiggle as much when you go over road imperfections, although to be honest, I've always felt the Fortuner is a bit behind the competition in terms of ride quality. But the MU-X is better. But again, it's not something that would be a deal breaker for me. I think that at 700,000 Rand, this is a lot of car. I mean, for instance, it's way cheaper than something like a Volkswagen Tiguan, which it feels like a Tiguan could fit inside here. This is a lot of car for your money. I mean, that's just a great summary, I think, of this car. If you need to carry 6 passengers around, if you occasionally need to tackle a tough gravel road, I think these cars make a lot of sense. I keep saying car, but it's an SUV. And I know you guys are going to comment on that in the comments. It's an SUV, Chiro. Stop saying car. Sorry. Right, let's tackle some dirt. Handily, this road goes from tar to dirt. So there we go, we're on the dirt now. This is a pretty well graded gravel road. We do use it quite often for filming. And it's my first time taking the Isuzu on a gravel road. Now I know that those who live in remote areas tend to tackle gravel roads the same way sort of Kimi Räikkönen tackled Spa-Francorchamps. I nearly said Spa-Spancorchamps there. So let's hit it with a little bit of speed. I'm doing 80 k's an hour now. Yeah, vehicle feels planted, nice soft suspension, eating up all the bumps and divots. I think this is the kind of car which you can do some pretty long distance in on a gravel road. You've got great ground clearance, you've got 18-inch wheels and tires, so the sidewall is quite high, because on the 3-litre you can go up to a 20-inch tire, which maybe won't be as good out here on the gravel. So maybe if you are looking for a gravel eater but you don't need a 4x4, then this one with the 18-inch actually might suit you better. Yeah, this is good. This is really good on gravel actually. It almost feels like it was tuned for gravel and then tuned for tar. Handbrake turn. Oh, it's an electric handbrake. Boo. And again, if we go back to that comparison with something like the Chery Tiggo 8, or maybe something like a Haval H6 or a Volkswagen Tiguan, for instance, you just feel like you wouldn't be able to tackle a gravel road like this with sort of reckless abandon. It just feels like the Isuzu is built for this. And while something like a Chery or like a Tiguan can handle a gravel road, it just feels like you can't really tackle the gravel road with such enthusiasm, if that makes sense. It feels like with those cars, even though you've got a bit of ground clearance, you really need to practice some mechanical sympathy when you take them off the tarmac. Whereas in something like this, man, I feel like freaking Sebastian Loeb out here, Peter Solberg. I'm in the Dakar. Gravel roads are fun. No, that's impressive. 9 out of 10 for me on gravel roads. Really good, really, really good. But now, possibly this SUV's greatest test: how does it perform in the city? How does it perform in the suburbs, where it will likely spend 90% of its time? Well, let's head out of the countryside now and into Century City to find out. And here we are, we have teleported into the land of corporate offices. This is Century City, and it's full of speed bumps and traffic and intersections and everything you might experience and encounter on your daily commute. And for me, the only downside of a bakkie-based SUV in this environment is that the engine note is very grumbly. It's a bit like driving a tractor, it's a bit agricultural, whereas in a more road-biased SUV, you probably wouldn't hear the engine at all. So if you can live with that, then I don't think there are many downsides to commuting in a bakkie like this. I mean, in an SUV like this. I keep getting this wrong. Right into the cabin of the Isuzu MU-X, and you can see where they've had to cut a few things out to bring the price down, but I also feel like they've left a couple of nice luxury touches so that you don't feel shortchanged. So for instance, the steering wheel is really nice. It feels like proper leather on here with contrast stitching. You've got contrast stitching with leather up on the dashboard, down here as well by your knee, which is quite nice, a leather sock on the gear stick. So it feels fairly premium. But then you do start to notice, okay, there's a couple of button blanks over here. You've got the old place where the start button would go. That's just a blank now as well. And then the biggest or smallest sign that this is the budget version of the MU-X is that the screen size is tiny. So you've got this big screen area, but the actual touchscreen is just sort of this big. It's pretty small in there. The cabin is very functional though, so you've got a USB and aux port down here with a 12-volt socket, useful storage in this bin, 2 drinks holders in the doors, electric windows, electric mirrors as well, multifunction steering wheel, and then a nice touch as well, or touches rather, is automatic lights and automatic windscreen wipers. This is the middle row of seats, and I'll show you how you get into the third row. You pull here, this tumbles down, and that creates very nice access into the third row. However, what's quite interesting is these seats are not on rails. They're actually in a fixed position. And what that means is that you don't actually get great legroom in the back here. I mean, that's my driving position. I'm not that tall, I'm 5'9", and as you can see, there's no knee room space for me. I mean, I'm okay. I could do a bit of distance in this position, but this is the downside of bakkie-based SUVs. The chassis is very high, and so you don't get a lot of space in the back, particularly for the middle row of seats. That being said, I think kids will be fine back here, but if you're particularly tall, maybe over 6 foot, you're going to battle for headroom as well. But there's quite a bit going on back here. You have your own aircon controls, which is nice. 2 USB ports down here so your kids don't argue with each other. You've got drinks holders in the door pockets, electric windows, a proper third row safety belt, and then quite cool drinks holders in the center armrest. If I can make them cooperate, there we go. And then something I always appreciate in cars is that you have 7 airbags, including curtain airbags, which go right past your passengers over here, which are great in the event of a rollover or a T-bone collision. The boot of this Isuzu MU-X is so large that I thought I should climb inside so I could show you the real size of it, because sometimes that doesn't translate on camera. But of course we have our trusty cooler box here for scale. So I hope you do get an idea of just how cavernous this is and how much you could fit back here if you needed to load it up for your family holiday, for instance. There are some useful touches back here. So you have proper tie down hooks, you have a 12-volt socket as well, and then the rear passengers have a drinks holder, which is handy, and aircon vents as well. And then a really nice touch is that you get a parcel shelf. Now, some 7-seater vehicles don't come with a parcel shelf, which for me is a huge problem in South Africa, but with this you get it as standard. However, it is so wide, it doesn't actually really fit anywhere in the vehicle when you don't have it in place. So when you go on holiday, you're going to have to decide, do you want to take the parcel shelf with you or not, which is a little bit unfortunate. And then when you fold the third row into place, you still get quite a decent boot. Now, where Isuzu adds some extra value, and some very good value indeed, is in the backup. So for instance, where with Toyota you would get a 3-year warranty, in the Isuzu it's a 5-year. It's a 120,000 kilometer warranty. You also get a 5-year 90,000 kilometer service plan, and you also get a 5-year unlimited kilometer anti-corrosion warranty. Your services will be every 15,000 Ks or once every 12 months. I was expecting the 1.9 turbo diesel in here to be much more economical than the 3-liter, but I do think that this is quite a big body for this engine, and so it is almost about the same in terms of fuel consumption. So if I remember correctly, driving the 3-liter D-Max, we were averaging around 10 to the 100. Here we're averaging 9.1 to the 100, and I think you will, with some careful driving, get that down into the 8s. And while we're cruising around the concrete streets of Century City, let's chat about this car's rivals, SUV's rivals. From Mitsubishi, you've got the Pajero Sport, also 7-seater, Toyota Fortuner, 7-seater, the Ford Everest, 7-seater, and you have a newcomer from Mahindra in the form of the Scorpio N, which is a vehicle I really like. We've filmed it before, the review is on our channel. Go take a look at it. For 600,000 Rand, I think the Mahindra is really good value. It pretty much does everything that all of its rivals do at a much lower price point. So it is a vehicle I would definitely consider if you're in the market for an adventure SUV. And then besides the Fortuner, every other rival is more expensive than this MU-X. So for instance, the Mitsubishi is about 80,000 Rand more expensive, and the most affordable Everest is about 150,000 Rand more than this MU-X, which is quite significant. I think you will find that across the entry-level adventure SUVs that the spec is relatively similar. I don't think there'll be much missing between them. And if you'd like to do a really detailed deep dive into the specs between all these vehicles, then go ahead and use the compare tool on our app or on our website. It's brilliant. I use it all the time. Now, if you're shopping in this segment and you have 700,000 Rand to spend, I think this MU-X makes a lot of sense. It's not perfect. It does have some downsides. However, for the money, this is a lot of car. And I definitely think it should be on your short list. You should definitely test drive this. Test drive the Mahindra, the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, the Fortuner, and the Everest. And I'd love to hear what you think of these cars in the comments below. Cars.co.za. Not only is Cars.co.za the best place to find your dream car, but it's also the easiest place to sell your current car. Check out the sell car section on our main website. Simply list your car's details and all of our dealers will take bids on your car. You just choose the highest price. Boom, your car's gone. On to your next one. Right, thanks very much for watching the video. Okay, I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm finished now.
A lifetime guarantee on all repairs is a lifetime of sidestepping, tackling and modeling your speedos happily. Budget, the official insurer of good South Africans.